Ladies and gentlemen, bringing on stage is a gentleman with a wealth of experience all across media. He is now the president of Times Conferences Limited and Bennett and Coleman Company Limited to formally welcome you to this summit. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Deepak Lamba.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And on behalf of the Times Group, it is my pleasure to welcome you all for this inaugural summit, the Economic Times Manufacturing Summit. And we hope that this is the first of many such summits over the course of the next few years, especially for this sector, because we believe it's one of the deep backbones and deep important pillars for the growth of the nation going forward. Manufacturing is of utmost importance in leading a balanced economic growth of a nation. And as known to all of us here, the segment is a massive employment generator and also has a very large multiplier effect on allied industries, thus augmenting growth potential of a country. I'm sure all present here agree that developments in the manufacturing space could serve as a just and good starting point. The Indian government is doing its bit. It's recognizing the unparalleled importance of manufacturing and has initiated a series of reforms to further the development in this area. However, while the plans are aggressive, we all know that policy paralysis has somewhat seized the government over the last 4-5 years, and the stagnant growth of the manufacturing sector at about 6.8% shows that there is a large gap between what we have achieved and what we remain to achieve going forward. Over the years, the Times Group has ceaselessly worked to further the nation's development. We've just celebrated 175th anniversary this year, and through the unparalleled reach of our media vehicles, we've tried to lead initiatives which have aided in nation building. As mentioned above, we acknowledge manufacturing as the backbone of India's future success, and we take great pride in associating ourselves with this industry. Woven along the theme of gearing up for the next level, this platform brings together leaders from the various segments of the manufacturing industry to discuss critical strategies that will lead manufacturing sector through its next phase of growth. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Managing Director, Accenture Management Consulting Operations and Accenture Sourcing and Procurement Services Asia Pacific, Mr. Manish Chandra.
So I think the topic of the presentation is dynamic operations in turbulent times. So as you would know, in today's situation, volatility is about double of what we have seen over the past 30 years. As Accenture, we did a global research where I think we found that most companies, about 90% of the companies felt that risk management programs are critical and very important to enable their growth. And 80% of the companies felt that their supply chains need to be resilient to really counter this volatility. But only 10% of these manufacturers actually had mature systems to address these risks. And those that do actually are 75% more profitable than their competitors. We also repeated this survey in the Indian industry, where we interviewed about 64 senior executives across 49 Indian companies, across 15 different industries. And most of these executives were senior to middle management people. And what came out of the research was that the situation in India is no better than what we have seen globally. Most companies are either focused on what we call as functional excellence, undertaking manufacturing productivity improvement programs or procurement cost reduction programs. A few were looking at integrated supply chain related programs, but very few were looking at what we call as really dynamic operations. So what's the difference? If you look at earlier, the focus was a financial focus in a functional excellence program was really cost reduction or cost optimization, while in dynamic operations, it's really about optimizing trade-offs, because you have to be dynamic and things will change, and how do you optimize the trade-offs? So dynamic operations really has 4 pillars, the first being insight to action, which is ability to sense changes in internal data or external data and use that for leveraging it for business intelligence or taking decisions. Adaptable structures basically means flexible operating model, keeping in view changes what are happening globally, changes in your business environment, or really leveraging new opportunities. For example, variabilizing your capacity so that you can immediately expand your capacity if the market was to demand it. Looking at aspects of flexible innovation, which is ability to drive innovation and drive growth and operational efficiency, leveraging product and process innovation, fine-tuning your products, keeping into changing customer requirements, and finally move from what we call as functional excellence to dynamic operations to handle these volatile times and turbulent times. Thanks a lot.
Stepping up to this dais, ladies and gentlemen, is a gentleman who brings close to 3 decades of worldwide experience in training, consulting, executive development, and education. Ladies and gentlemen, he is now CEO, Global Carbon Black Business and Director, Global Human Resources. Dr. Santarup Mishra, and he'll be talking to us on Made in India, leveraging on India's essential strength of manpower.
I'm here to join you and celebrate you this wonderful aspect called manufacturing, which has been a backbone of this country, alongside agriculture, alongside services many years. Now the question before us is, what is that we need to do, we can do, we must do, and we should do in India to be able to make manufacturing the mainstay of our economy? And there, I just basically want to talk about a couple of things. Made in India doesn't have to be a sentimental nationalistic phenomenon. We don't have to be sentimental and say, out of sentimentality about India, we should be talking about Made in India. Made in India should be tangible, professional outcome-based source of pride for all of us, where we talk about tangible products, tangible technology, tangible processes, tangible innovation that makes India truly proud. Now that would be possible if not just we exploit the demographic dividend, but go slightly beyond that. And the point I want to make is, we often seem to be over-occupied with the number of people we have, the age of our people, and the low cost that we have. In fact, we should move away from number to our nature. We should move away from age to our agility. And I think we need to move away from low cost to high caste. And by caste, I do not mean caste with a letter E at the end of it. I mean high caste as in casting of crew and people in a theater. So caste in that sense and not with an E. The challenge before you, ladies and gentlemen, is from plumber to head of your manufacturing, how do we collectively work to restore, create, and sustain that sense of pride of being a manufacturing person whose excellence is respected, revered? Perhaps in human resources, people like me have made mistake historically of not designing a reward system, not designing a career system, not designing an incentive mechanism that celebrates, honors, rewards, incentivizes people to excel at manufacturing and technical function. That is perhaps a historical mistake and a blunder that needs to be corrected, and I am sure that you need to bring to the table ideas and thoughts on how can it be done, like National Skills Development Council is bringing people together from different sectors to put together the skills profile needed. I hope and believe at the end of this conference, as you go back to your workplace, just not take back ideas from here, but go back and debate with your colleagues and discuss how do you restore that sense of professional pride amongst technical, manufacturing, and other people who are the real wealth creators in this country. And if that happens, why not going to number 2 position, we perhaps can compete more effectively with China. That's the message that I wanted to leave. Thank you for having here. Enjoy the summit.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be with such an esteemed team. If we were to see, in the last few decades, we have seen a lot of change in the state which is there. There have been substantial kind of constraints which are there. But if I were to talk about India still, we see several of the MNCs are trying to establish base in India. We see, I mean, just to take few names, we have seen GE come down to India and wanting to set India as a manufacturing hub. If I were to talk about some of the Korean firms, we have LG and Samsung, which are there. We have a Finnish firm named Nokia, which is there. And likewise, there are German firms also, Volkswagen and several others, which are coming down to India and setting base. So despite all of the constraints that we have, what is it that you see are some of the critical things which are attracting these firms to India to make India as a manufacturing hub, not only for India, but also for across India, outside of India?
I believe there are 2 or 3 things. One is that we are a billion people. We have a very large market of our own, basically. Second, I think the democracy, rule of law also provides some degree of comfort for international investor in India. And thirdly, they also find that the competence which is required in terms of knowledge of engineering or information also is helping us.
I think the technical talent is what is attracting them, and I think the frugal innovation, what our people are able to do, the kind of creativity we show here, they can take it to the world. Why GE came here is that disruptive innovations happen in this country and then they take it to the larger world. And you will see a lot of MNCs on their board, a lot of Indians have made it to the parent board. I think it's the technical talent which is attracting them.
Then another thing is we have almost 63% people in working age population and much lower dependency rate. So India will continuously provide manpower at a much lower cost for manufacturing sector.
You know, the developed world is not growing at the pace they should have been developing. And the reason we know that low fertility rate, lower availability of working population, things like that. And India has emerged as a low-cost platform, manufacturing platform, and low-cost innovation platform. You find that many of the leading pharma companies, Fortune 500 companies, they are going to, they are getting clinical research done in India. So India has the potential, and in talent-driven innovation, I think India is one of the fastest growing countries.
So 31% of India is urbanized currently, and we feel, they say that in the next 15 to 20 years, it would be close to 40 to 45%. And that is an insurance for the building material industry, where the consumption in most sectors is so low. It's so much lower than China, if we had to even compare China. I think the delta to be made in India versus China is just extremely significant, and that's why people are coming here, along with the talent pool which we have.
I think when for any overseas company, when they think for going to comparatively lower cost manufacturing destination, the choices today are very limited. It's not that there are 50 countries there in the radar list. And within those choices, if somebody wants to come to the subcontinent, I think the first attraction for them would be that a democratic system of governments is in our country in comparison to the Pakistan or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka there. So people feel that the money and the investment will be much safer in India.
What I need to understand from this esteemed team is China today exports roughly about 1.8 trillion plus USD, which is equivalent to the complete GDP of India. What do you think are some of the things which are probably India challenges? And I'm looking at it more from the corporate side because we have talked about it more from the state level. But what are some of the challenges which we see should be overcome, which can make it even more, like some of us were saying, to become more attractive for us?
I think first we need a very conducive ecosystem where the new entrants can come much free manner and they can focus their time and talent into the productivity rather than sorting out government issues. This is the first thing. In manufacturing setup, India's 16% GDP or whatever it is, but we are mostly the labor intensive kind of industry in the manufacturing. Less focus has been given for the automation and very less we have paid attention to the human resource development.
Until we sort out at the regulatory level the allocation of natural wealth of the country on a very transparent basis, I think it's very difficult to grow manufacturing in this sector.
There clearly is a national interest technology in, let's say, space defense, which needs to be more from a security national standpoint. We need to kind of focus and invest in that. And I think there has to be a certain focus now on what I would define it as social technologies or social manufacturing, which would be areas like water, food, healthcare, energy. Now, I think we got to make a very, very conscious choice in the country that here are some 5, 6 areas which we need to become the best in the world by actually investing in these areas for manufacturing. Then there's these in-between manufacturing technologies, or saying that between all these social technologies and the country defense and country space, there are other technologies in manufacturing which we really need to kind of now think about creating clusters, creating skill development, creating other areas. So I think we've got to have a much more cohesive approach for India. And I think this India-China bashing should end, I think, I mean, every time we end up comparing, how is China and how is India, I don't think so we should be doing that. We should be charting a session, a path for us, what is right for the nation and what we need to be doing.
And to add to what he said, that we need to stop constant comparison with China.
Absolutely.
Every country has to have its own homespun unique solution. Like we are a multicultural, multilinguistic, democratic society with a lot of room for consensus. We can't be a Singapore or a Hong Kong. But then, yes, we have our strength. We must recognize our strength. We should minimize our weakness and latch on to our strength and move ahead.
If we say India has to be innovative, if India has the entrepreneurship that we are talking about, what is it that is really required to garner this innovation and make it happen?
You see, first and foremost thing what we can do in India, which is the basics, benchmark yourself. So once you benchmark yourself against the globally best and try to achieve there, adopt that and then surpass. Now, this is there with certain large corporates in the country, but it is missing largely in many of the small and medium enterprises, which is the backbone of industry, and a good quantum of production comes from there. And wherever, like particularly in auto ancillary and all, where they are supported heavily by the parent, a lot of good things are happening. But rest of the industry, including the medium-sized plants in the steel industry or others, I find there is a big gap in terms of productivity, efficiency, energy consumption, and environment cleanliness. There is a big gap.
I think the innovation in India is frugal, homegrown. What we don't do is the IPR. We don't patent it, we don't talk about it. But there is a lot of creativity. We have got the worst of the feedstocks. We got all the constraints you have spoken about, but still you end up being a world beater. Every business in our group is in the top 3 in the world. And I think we have been able to achieve that sitting in this country and selling all of them in this country. We are not exporting most of it, so I think it's possible.
When I compare what we do here in India and what happens in the developed countries like US and Europe, is the chalta hai attitude. Or if you have a process or a system to be followed, any problem comes, any handicap, rather than stopping and dealing with it, bypasses it. Now, as a culture, if you want a manufacturing as a competitive dynamics over a period of time, you need to create a workforce, both operative workforce and managerial workforce, which has the kind of discipline. Each companies are trying to do that. But when you look around, the way we run our government, we run our cities, we run any of our public services, we just don't see that culture of discipline and culture of working things properly.
Innovation really are classified into 2 spheres. One is a process innovation, one is a product innovation. I think we are pretty good at process innovation. I think the challenge is really product innovation, the touch and feel product. How do you really deploy a product in a market where you believe you can actually make money out of it? And I think in that space, what we tend to do is just import everything in, whether it's a USB drive to a camera to a, you name it, we actually do that. And I think somehow our system has now got to become by saying that, okay, if we actually start evaluating a domestic market and create a market, then you drive innovation.
It's very much like 30 years ago, maybe 35 years ago, we would disregard any Japanese toys as we were growing up. And it today is the preferred destination to buy anything from an electronic toy or whatever it is. So similarly, I think in India, while we are Indian majors, at least our brands are Indian majors, but we're not global majors. And if you take some other brands which have come into India, they've been majors in their own country and also globally because of that perception of that country and also the faith in that particular product. So that's something which will really drive innovation, and we've seen that happening over the 10 years. It's only improving.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I think it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Director, Group Corporate Services, Aditya Birla Group, Rajiv Dubey, to talk to us about globalizing Indian manufacturing in his keynote.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world is going through turbulent times, and there are significant structural trends that Indian manufacturing has to factor in as it chalks its plans for the future. It is imperative, in my view, if Indian manufacturing companies have to achieve world-class standards of excellence across their locations, that they step up efforts to realize synergistic gains at a pace which is much faster than what has been the case till now. Harmonization of manufacturing standards and philosophy across the operations needs to be the center stage of their planning process, as also an approach to technology, which gains from learnings that come from the acquisitions in a far competitive geography. Indian manufacturing relies heavily on the micro, small, and medium enterprises. MSME sector employs over 100 million people in around 45 million units across the country, contributes 45% of the manufacturing output, and accounts for 40% of the country's exports. Given the relatively low share of the manufacturing sector in the country's GDP, and a widespread perception of manufacturing being unglamorous, attracting people to the sector is becoming increasingly difficult. If the current trends of the best jobs in the industry going to management graduates and the service sector are to be reversed, the manufacturing sector has to address the variables that will make the swing possible. The last and perhaps the most critical change that needs to be advocated for transforming manufacturing in India is to have manufacturing companies stop looking at the world from a manufacturing perspective alone. Manufacturing companies need to plan their businesses outside in than inside out. It should be a view of the market segments, customer insights, technology, and societal trends that should form the basis on which they frame their business plans, an approach to manufacturing, and not the propensity to sell what can be conveniently produced. Thank you very much.
Well, I think events are important. Depending on the size of the population and the right kind of stakeholders, we should have as many as possible, as long as we keep them relevant. So every event of this kind must have a right topic, right kind of facilitators and right participation, and it must lead to some outcome that will change something in the relevant sector.
It broadens the understanding of what we need to do to be successful as a manufacturing business and structure. People's vision gets broadened. That helps companies to establish right kind of strategies. Also, it provides nuts and bolts. If you have a problem, how do you solve it? So I think it's a great initiative it is taking.
I think it's good. It's a lot of knowledge sharing, and we get industry stalwarts to come and debate and also come out with ideas. I think what we saw today was one of the members said that it's no point coming out with issues, but coming out with solutions is more a positive approach. So a lot of times, out of 100 things which you're hearing, the 2 things which stick in your mind make the difference.